The Morgan Report with David Morgan.
David Morgan from themorganreport.com for the week ending 28 October 2022. Well, only a couple months left and it's another year. Right now we're looking at the warehouse for the Comex silver inventories. And there's been a lot of discussion about this over the last several months, as there should be. And this is the bottom line right here. This is the totals. And as you can see from this, that the amount of registered category silver is 36 million. And the eligible is around 266, rounding up million, for a total of 300 million ounces. Rowan Manley, that is right at the top of the game as far as I'm concerned, for several reasons, wrote an article recently about the amount of eligible that's really available to go into registered. Well, I mean, technically, any of it could get a warrant on it and move into registered, but I believe, and no one can prove exactly how much, but it is my contention that 50% is his article. I won't argue with him, but I don't know. My contention is it's even higher than that, more like 70 or 75% is long-term investors that expect higher silver prices, and they're not willing to part with it until their objectives are met. But a market's a market. People get excited, they change their minds, they do whatever. So the idea is that we're very low in inventories here. I've seen it this low a couple times. It'll be very interesting to see if we get a shift out of the eligible category and into the registered category over the next, let's say, few months. Next up is the landing page is themorganreport.com. Pull down the blog and hit blog, and you come to this. This is all the video interviews, audio interviews that I do. And over here on the far right, as you can easily see, I have these big icons here. And all you need to do is press the YouTube one, and you will go to our YouTube channel. So here you are on the YouTube channel. And what I want to point out here, and now you come to the community section. Right here, you press that. I post up videos that are of extreme importance to the community. It's random. Sometimes I may post one or two in a week. Sometimes I might not post for 2 months. It just depends on what I consider to be extremely relevant or not. So we hit the community, and first one I posted this morning. I had to be up at 4 a.m. and talk to the World Gold Council today. Regardless, this goes into Don't Be Left Behind, and it gives a pretty good dissertation on XRP. I know there's fans and distractors. Game is still undecided. This is from Darren Moore. Darren, I've had on the mastermind twice. He's does an excellent job of a deep dive and no BS and not a name caller. He just gives you the facts. This, if you're interested in XRP or not, it goes beyond XRP into Don't Be Left Behind, because we're going down the train tracks to digital currencies. I think anyone who's followed our work, we've been covering the blockchain for years now, and more adoption is taking place. Whether or not XRP is going to be adopted or not remains to be determined. I'm not smart enough to know. I know that Darren convinced me after a long discussion that it was one that probably would be adopted, but even he would say, more data, change our minds. I think the verdict will be here pretty soon, and this video goes into what the possibilities are. So we all know that Credit Suisse has had some problems. I want to point out that they have 2 ETNs, SLVO and GLDI. So just a warning to those that follow what I do. Heads up, if you've got the SLVO or the GLDI at Credit Suisse, you might want to consider an exit. Here is the latest available COT, Commemorative Traders Report. And as you can see, it's for silver. And here we go with the non-commercials, trading funds. What's very interesting here is the net long contracts is 51,541, and the net short is 50,274. So they're basically neutral as can be. I mean, they're not a perfect number match, but pretty close. So in that position, whatever happens in the market, up or down, has not that much effect on aggregate. Now, there's a lot of funds in there that are, way off on one side or the other, but on aggregate, on balance, they're basically matched. And then if you come over to the other side with the commercials that are notoriously short, you find they are, but not really that much. And it's very interesting here. They're shorting roughly 60,000 contracts and long it's about 51,000 contracts, which means they're net short about 9,000 contracts. Very interesting. Both sides are pretty neutral. Obviously, the commercials are short, as I said, 9,000 contracts. This is very low. It's very interesting what's going on here as the drainage continues off of both the LBMA and the Comex, and what the position is in the derivatives market, what we call the silver market, but it's really the CME run exchange for derivative price of silver, what a contract is called out for. So I'll leave it there, watching closely. Wouldn't surprise me to see something take place between now and, I'd say, the end of the year or the next few months into January, February 2023. And what I mean by that is perhaps an increase in margins, perhaps some type of position limit enforcement, some kind of rhetoric coming out of one of the authorities, CME or the CFTC. But that's all conjecture. I wouldn't bank on it or plan on it. But again, this has been an interesting year for silver, especially with the physical supply, the premiums that have held so high for so long, and what the positioning is relative to what it normally is. And taking a real quick, rough look at the markets this past week, you can see that gold has been pretty much flat in this range for this past week. It's off today, so coming down in here. Silver, basically the same thing. We've seen it around the 19 level, up to 1950. It's coming down toward 19 today. The 1850 level has been breached, but it's held there fairly well. I still think that we're probably near the bottom, especially what I just showed you with the commitment of traders. There's no real strong push down, unless it comes in the middle of the night in the aftermarket, which we've seen so many times, and it could. But the way it's structured right now, it's very interesting. Quickly, some brief items. PV Magazine. Global installed photovoltaic capacity could hit 260 gigawatts in 2022. Obviously, we have 2 months left, but there has been a lot of solar that has been purchased due to energy concerns, the Russia situation going into Europe, etc. This is just kind of a humorous story. Petapixel. Kodak is hiring film technicians who cannot keep up with demand. Kodak, as it says in the article, is hiring and says its tact being the last color film manufacturer standing has paid off as interest in analog photography continues to surge. Relative to what? Very small demand relative to where it was in 1999. However, I find this a bit humorous. Anyone that read my first book, How to Get the Skinny on Silver Investing, knows that the photography situation is a zero-sum game. And a color print, 100% of the silver has to come off into solution, or else your print is ruined. So that silver is recaptured at 100% level, which very few other recyclers can do that well, but in film they can. And so that silver has never really done anything except been recycled again and again and again and again. So it's really net neutral to the supply demands, but most people don't understand that. You can read it in the book, believe me or not, that's what happens. I just want to bring up this article because color prints probably will never go away fully, but obviously they're extremely small relative to the digital age. This was a little bit on the academic side. Eureka alert. New tandem catalyst converts carbon dioxide into valuable multi-carbon products more selectively. The bottom line is here that certain amounts of silver are needed to facilitate this process. I'll leave it at that. Just pointing out that there are more and more uses for silver all the time. Usually they are like this, meaning that they have an impact, but not a significant impact as far as the overall drain on supply. But they are cumulative. And along those lines, lots of silver used in the medical profession for all kinds of things. Here's another one from the medical press. A new laser surface modification process with silver provides antimicrobial defense to titanium orthopedic devices. You can read the article if you're interested. Just again pointing out that there's more and more silver used in industry all the time. Well, this week I started talking about cryptos, and I'm going to end talking about cryptos. Talked about going to our YouTube channel, looking at community, hitting that button and watching that video by Darren Moore. Crypto alert. This is yesterday, the October 27th. EU close to introducing groundbreaking law to regulate crypto. I won't read it to you, but there's something to be aware of. And anyone that's involved seriously in this market ought to take a look at this. Even if you are US based or based outside of the EU, usually these entities, these nation states, start to work together, especially when it comes to regulations and money. So I'll leave it there. This is David Morgan of themorganreport.com. I'll be back with you next week with another weekly perspective.